Welcome back to Module 1. To recap, in this module we're first learning a basic overview of how WordPress works before we get stuck into building our starter site in Module 2. Now we've all felt like this guy when it comes to WordPress, right? As we've already said, the frustrations, confusion and headaches you're experiencing trying to use Elementor to build full WordPress websites is caused by major gaps in your understanding of how WordPress works, what all the component parts are, and how they all work together. So I'll be using the real-life analogy of a factory to help you clearly understand how all the pieces of WordPress fit together. Now this will be at a conceptual overview level right now, rather than practical, but we will be quickly moving on to the hands-on stuff. Remember, I'm presuming you've already used WordPress, so you should be able to relate your practical experience so far to the concepts I cover here. I'll start off with a sort of top-level bird's eye view, the absolute basics. So firstly, think of WordPress as a factory. It's a big building with all sorts of machinery and workers and processes that makes a finished product. The finished product it makes is web pages, and it churns them out whenever the customer asks for them. Now the visitors to your website are the customers who are ordering these products or pages. They use a web browser like Google Chrome or Firefox to place each order. And they place the orders by using URLs in the browser address bar. And those URLs have a certain structure, so WordPress knows what to deliver to them. So if the URL just has the main domain name, then the WordPress factory takes the order and delivers the homepage. If the URL has blog on the end, it knows, following a set of rules, to deliver the blog page. Now don't worry about the specifics of how all that works just yet. Just understand for now that WordPress understands what the product order is, meaning what the finished web page will be, and it knows that from the URL. And WordPress actually supplies an easy way for your visitors to place their orders with navigation menus, which are actually a core feature of every single WordPress factory. You can easily create your own unique menus which contain links to the pages you choose, and those links are the correct URLs for the visitor to click on for that page. And your theme displays that menu on each finished web page, making it easy for visitors to request pages. Now the factory has to operate within an environment, just like any factory. So imagine a factory might be on an industrial estate with roads leading to the factory. It has utilities supplied like water and electricity. Well, the environment that the WordPress factory operates in is a web server, and that's what your web hosting provides. So a lot of the resources the WordPress factory needs to use, which in WordPress's case is things like the PHP, engine, disk space, processor, memory, all those things, they're all supplied by the server environment, the web server. Okay, so that's the basic overview. Let's dig a bit deeper now. Now to start with, we have the standard stuff that a factory itself is made of. You can think of this as the factory floor. So it's the area where all the standard machinery is, the lights, the motors, the equipment. In our analogy, all this default machinery is what's called the WordPress core. Now these are the actual files that make up WordPress itself. And all that means in reality, the WordPress core is just a bunch of files on the server. You can see how exciting that actually looks. Don't worry, you'll likely not ever have to see these files again. These files are the core of how WordPress works for everyone, regardless of what theme they use or which plugins they use. So when you first install WordPress, these files are put on the server, and they just form the standard set of rules and procedures and setup for how WordPress works. So in a factory, the basic factory floor, equipment and setup has to be in place for anything to happen. And in our analogy, that's what the WordPress core software is for. Now, as well as the factory floor, the factory also needs a storage area or warehouse to store all the raw materials and component parts that are going to be used to assemble the finished products. So in our analogy, this storage area or warehouse is the database. All you really need to know is that the database is like a fancy spreadsheet, and it stores all the WordPress settings, theme settings, plugin settings, the actual text content of the posts and pages themselves, information about users, all ready to be compiled, put together to make the finished web pages. So with WordPress, you have the core files, and the database working hand in hand. Now in any factory, you will likely need some raw materials, which are then used to make the finished product. So for cars or bikes, it'll be metal for the frames or the chassis. Well, in our WordPress factory, the raw materials are posts. Now our finished web page products would really be nothing without creating content. And each time we, or our clients, each time we create content in WordPress, we create a post. Each post is just a standard unit of content, just like a piece of raw material for our finished product. And just technically speaking, a post in WordPress isn't just a blog post like you had here in the admin panel. Actually, post refers to pages and it refers to media like images too. I know it's a bit confusing, but that's web development for you. But basically, any post or page or image you add to WordPress is like the raw material for the factory. In a regular factory, the final finished products are put together on an assembly line from all the different materials and components. Now the assembly line in our analogy is the theme. And it's the theme that dictates how the finished product will be assembled and what it will look like. And this is why when you use WordPress, you need a theme. Now the theme does this with templates. Every theme comes with a set of pre-built templates built by the themes developer, and those templates are just files on the server as well. And the templates contain the layout and the rules for how to pull together and display web pages. As well as layouts, the theme also dictates how the site looks, the styling, like typography, the colours, the fonts. And your theme allows you to make changes to these within appearance, customize in your WordPress settings, and that gives you access to what's called the customizer. But even if you don't know any code, you can still set fonts and colours and even change default layouts, but you are stuck with what the developer of the theme allows you to do. So the developer of the theme has to actually build those options into their own theme, into the customizer. If that's a bit restrictive, and it often is, we can work around that with Elementor, and the themes that we'll be using in this course aren't particularly restrictive anyway. That's why we've chosen them. Now ideally the theme itself shouldn't provide too much extra functionality beyond templates and styling. And of course lots of themes do overstep this mark. Think of themes like Divi, which try to do it all. No. If you need extra functionality on top of what the standard WordPress factory provides, well, you really need to bring in some outside contractors. Well, plugins are a little like outside contractors or partners, and they come in to provide a specialized service or material that the main factory isn't usually set up for. So plugins are just little bits of additional specialist functionality that the WordPress core doesn't cater for by default, and they extend WordPress's capabilities. And because WordPress is so popular and used by millions of people, there are a huge number of plugins to choose from, ranging from very simple functionality to very complex. And of course, Elementor is a plugin, exactly the same. It's like an outside contractor coming along and supplying extra functionality for the factory. In Elementor's case, this is the ability to create drag and drop web page designs on standard WordPress pages and posts. Now you might be a bit confused about the difference between a page builder plugin like Elementor and a WordPress theme, and you might wonder what the difference is. It's a question I hear a lot. I think the confusion here is because the additional functionality that Elementor brings with it does seem to cross over quite a bit with things that a theme would normally handle. And actually sometimes it seems to cross over with what WordPress itself would normally handle. It'll all become clear through this course, but just understand for now that the theme does one job, and then Elementor is a plugin which brings additional functionality on top, just like any other plugin does. So by now you should have a pretty solid overview concept of how WordPress works. WordPress is a factory producing finished web pages. This is made up of the core files plus the database. The raw material for producing the finished pages are posts, which in WordPress terms actually relates to blog posts and pages and images. It's your chosen theme that's responsible for assembling it all together into pages with its own templates and styling rules. And then for any additional functionality that WordPress doesn't provide, there are plugins. In the final lesson of Module 1, we're going to have a quick tour of the 10 practical components of WordPress, the 10 building blocks that you'll use every day when building websites. And this could be the fast track to demystifying much of how WordPress works for you.